Hey guys, welcome to Module 4 in the Content Machine course. I'm particularly excited about this module because I think this idea of differentiation is a concept I've brought across from entrepreneurship into the content marketing world, and I think it's completely ignored and misunderstood for the most part, and I think it's the most powerful thing you can do in order to make your content marketing work. So in this module, I'm going to give you 7 very specific examples and stories where I've seen people do this well, and I hope that triggers a few ideas for you in differentiating your own content. So 7 models of differentiation. The first one I want to talk about is revealing secrets, and the example I have there is a guy called Marcus Sheridan who has a company called River Pools and Spas, and they make fiberglass swimming pools. When the global financial crisis was hitting in 2008 in the US, he gathered his team around and he was sort of desperate to figure out a way to market this business not through traditional paid advertising because he couldn't do it anymore, couldn't afford it anymore. And he just did a really simple thing and just asked them, like, what are the things that customers really want to know that other people aren't telling them? So in this world, it was very rare for companies for you to be able to go into Google and find some information from companies around, for example, how much does a swimming pool cost? And this used to be the standard. It would be like companies would keep this stuff so close to their chest that the information people wanted was just not out there. And it was so simple for Marcus to just come in and say, well, if this is the information people want, why don't we just write posts about this stuff? And that's exactly what he did. He got the team together. They listed a whole bunch of questions that customers really want that they can't get out there already. And he just wrote content about this stuff. So how much do pools cost? How much do fiberglass pools cost? Fiberglass pools versus other pools, all of this kind of content that other people were keeping secretive, and he was just putting this stuff out there. And he had tremendous success building one of the top fiberglass pool companies in the US, and still ranks number 1 for this keyword after years and years of doing that. And I think you can do that as well. If you're in a traditional industry where people really keep things close to their chest, then this is a strategy you can use. You can just put this information out there, be the first to do it, and get a lot of attention for what you're doing. Out hustle is one I love because, again, your job is not a blogger. Your job is a content marketer. And as a content marketer, you need to be entrepreneurial. And entrepreneurs get shit done. And sometimes just outworking people is going to work for you. And the story I love here is one I talk about in the book. Is a guy called John Dumas, who's a friend of mine. And he started Entrepreneur on Fire at a time when people would typically do 1 podcast a week. He came in and said, no, I'm going to record 10 podcasts every Monday. Everyone thought he was crazy. He outworked everyone for 3 or 4 months to get this thing kicked off before he could systemize it and build it into a scalable machine. And he's built a $1 million business in a couple of years doing that. And this is something actually you can do sparingly. I think you can really just put aside a day or two and focus on loads of content, putting a bunch of stuff out there, and just hustle your way into getting a lot of stuff out. That can be a really useful thing to do. I've seen Darren from ProBlogger do that. I've done things like that. In fact, putting this course together today, I'm doing it all in one day for the entire course. And I don't want to be the guy who puts out 1 piece of content a month. I want to occasionally grab a bit of extra attention by doing something that is just simply outworking people. And this has worked for me. I've done content marathons before where I've done 13 blog posts in one day, and I've made a bit of a scene out of it and told people I'm doing it, put the content out, and it gets people's attention. So getting attention is about differentiation, and out hustle is one way you can do that. The third is to give more. And I love this one because I think content marketing is the most generous marketing you can do. And that's why I love it. You're not only marketing your business, but you're helping a bunch of people at the same time. And so you can take this to an extreme level and you can just give more than everyone else. And that's a good way to get attention. And Noah Kagan is the guy I think of, or I thought of, originally when I thought about like, why is this guy so good? And I listened to a podcast episode on smart passive income, and he was just extremely generous with his time, not just recording, top tips for building a business. He was literally going through everything he knew, every last detail. He was offering people to come out in person to hang out with him as a competition. He was just going extreme on this giving more concept. And that really inspired me to do the same thing on Pat's podcast. And when I went on there, I offered people in his audience to do a review of their website. And I ended up having about 700 comments on that article and getting a whole bunch of attention that a normal participant on his show wouldn't get. And so I think if you can think about what more can you give away that other people aren't prepared to give away, then that's a great way to differentiate and stand out. The fourth is to use data. And the reason I include a couple of these in here is because I think they're underrepresented. I think things like data and understanding data and putting together beautiful visuals are really misunderstood, very difficult to do well. And as a result, a lot of people just take the easy option. So if you can figure this stuff out, it can be a huge competitive advantage. The example I think of here, and there are many examples of people doing this well, but this little image here is from a vocabulary of hip-hop interactive infographic. And they went through and looked at how many words rappers are using in their writing, and they plotted them on a chart that was interactive where you could mouse over the rapper and see how many different words they used. Just a really brilliant way to use data, to use visuals, to use interactivity, and to get people's attention. So if you're good with numbers and you can think about what kind of content you can put out there that uses data, can be a great way to get attention. The example I use in the book is OkCupid, which is a dating site. So look into their content as well and what they did with their data. Very much worth looking at. Be Funnier is one of my favorite ones as well, because I notice when I go to conferences, the speakers that are funny really just get the most attention. Like after the talks, everyone's like, "Oh, that speaker was great." And I think being funny is a really good way to get attention because it's a universal thing. Everyone likes to laugh. It makes people feel good. If you can be funny in your content, whether that's your written content, your podcasting, your videos, then that can give you a huge advantage. Murray Folio is the example I have there because I know Murray does a lot of good stuff with what she does, and she does a lot of things well. But the thing that got my attention when I first started following what she was doing was just a sense of humor, and it really stood out for me. And there's a lot of other people, I could include there, but I really like what she's doing, so I've included her as the example. If you are naturally funny, then I think you can really start thinking about this stuff. In the book, I talk about models for being funnier, and I talk about another book called Do You Talk Funny, which is a book by David Nihil, which specifically teaches you how to be funnier. Kevin Rogers is another guy, a copywriter, mate of mine, who he's one of the funniest guys I've ever met, and talks about specific ways to be funnier. And you can really analyze some of this stuff and include it in what you're doing. And it's not, and stand-up comedians do this. It's not like people are just naturally amazing comedians. Like, they really analyze what they're doing and they have a structure for what they're doing. So if you think you can use humor in what you're doing, then look into some of these guys, look at what methods they use to be funnier and use that in your content. Do something first, I think, is hugely powerful. And I think in a lot of businesses, they become successful. They get their attention, at least their initial attention, because they did something first. And content, again, is no different. There's a great parallel between doing something first as an entrepreneur and doing something first as a content marketer. Pat Flynn was one of the first people to do really transparent content. His income reports, I think back in 2008, long time ago, were sort of revolutionary in a way because no one was doing this. Everyone was being really secretive about their income. And now transparency in business is very much a trend. A lot of companies do it. We do it at WP Curve. It works very well for us. But if you can do it first, I mean, you can just ride that thing for years. And Pat has built, a huge audience and almost celebrity status out of building that initial community. And all of that came through that attention that he got originally. And those reports were a huge part of that. So if you can think about doing something first, it's a really good way to jump out and get attention. Design is one of my passions, and I think if you can do visual content or you can out-design people, then it's just an awesome way to stand out. Again, the parallel from entrepreneurship, startups generally to content marketing. If you can do content that is impeccably designed, if you can focus in on visual content, you can do that really well. Frank Body, I've mentioned elsewhere in this course, do mainly Instagram marketing and mainly getting other people to post pictures of them using the product. It helps that most of the pictures are semi-naked girls in the shower rubbing coffee scrub on themselves, of course. And I'm not recommending you do that in your business necessarily. But their design is impeccable. Have a look at their site if you get a chance. The content they're putting out, the look and feel of it is amazing. And they're using these visual platforms. And I think if you're looking at content marketing now in 2015 or 2016, whenever you're looking at this course, you need to be thinking broader than just writing. Think about some of these visual platforms, Instagram, Periscope, Blab, some of these platforms that are coming out. I don't know if these things are going to be around forever, but I do know that it is stuff that has people's attention right now. And there's huge opportunities for visual content. The visual social networks are the fastest growing social networks. And if you can get really good at design and use some of these networks for your content, you can really differentiate at the moment, because most people just misunderstood it and they're trying to apply old ways of thinking to these new networks. And you can jump in there, really understand them, have that visual difference, that strong design, and really stand out. So there's 7 of the models of differentiation I think you can consider. The thing with differentiation is it doesn't really matter which one you choose. It only matters if it works. If you get attention and you find something that's different to other people and people are starting to give you attention for what you're doing, they're demonstrating, they're sharing what you're doing, they're demonstrating they care about it, and you've got that momentum going, then keep doing more of that. If you don't have that, try some of these things, think up some other ways you can stand out, and really think about differentiation as a strong platform in your content strategy. Thank you guys. I'll see you guys in the next module.